Today on our show, man, we are back after even more months of craziness and debauchery and weird sex, I guess. But enough about that now. You're tuned into the Nerdynomicon, where we're going to talk pop culture right after this theme song. Welcome to the Nerdynomicon. I'm one of your hosts, Robbie, and with me is the amazing, the awesome, the sexy, the sultry, the siren of podcasting. I'm talking about the one, the only, Adrian Steve.
Hey. So I'm a little confused by your initial intro. Is weird sex not covered under debauchery? Because I feel like that would fall under that.
Well, that depends on what kind of weird sex you're talking about. I mean, not all weird sex is in fact debauchery.
Well, what weird sex were you talking about? That wouldn't be debauchery.
I was talking about the Kama Sutra here. What kind of weird sex were you talking about that was debauchery, Adrian Steve?
The debaucherous kind.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It has been a while, man. How have you been dealing with the fact that the world is ending?
I mean, I haven't punched anybody yet, so I guess that's a good one, right? Like, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. I can legitimately say that as well. I haven't punched anybody yet, the operative word being yet, but it's been a time since we last sat down to record. I've done several videos on what's been going on as part of the zombie series that we were talking about last time. There's a video that I've been working on for a while now, and I keep on having to go back to it and rewrite it again. It was initially just going to be an analysis of Disney's Zombies, the musical movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the shit happened with George Floyd. Those 4 cops murdered a man in the streets. And then the entire country launched into a goddamn uprising against the jackbooted thugs that are the police here in the United States of America. So I rewrote the script, and then I rewrote it again, and it's just one thing after another. So we've got a pandemic that's still going on. We've got people finally rising up and going after the cops. Well, not going after the cops, but talking about, going after them in the way that counts, their wallets. We got an election year. 2020 is the fucking worst year ever, bro.
It's pretty fucking bad, honestly.
So, I mean, have you been taking part in anything going on, or just been trying to keep your head down low? Because, I mean, I've been taking part. I've been out in the streets.
I have not been out in the streets, and it's not because I don't believe in what they're doing. I just don't think I would be helpful out there. I'm honestly been pretty upset about a lot of stuff that's going on, and I'm not sure that I could fully remain peaceful. And there are people that are counting on me in this family, and I just worry that I would do something stupid that would undermine my position with the family, my position with my work, undermine potentially the protests in general. But it's really hard for me because I'm sitting here thinking some of these things and like watching people getting beaten and tear gassed by police officers and federal, troops. And sitting like, there's going to hit a certain point where I'm not sure peaceful protest is going to be enough.
Here's the thing. I do agree with you on that. I really do. And you're starting to see things getting escalated in certain areas. Some of them have since calmed down. I mean, we're just, speaking to the people that are listening to this in the future from when we're recording this right now. I mean, we're sitting down here For me right now, it's August 2nd. It's August 1st still for you because we're recording from different sides of the country. Me being in New York, you being in Cali. We had masked, unidentified soldiers snatching people off the streets in Portland, Oregon, and throwing them into unmarked vans and driving off to undisclosed locations.
I heard that happened in New York as well.
It has started happening in New York. It has also started to happen in Chicago. This is kidnapping. I don't care what way you try to spin it. If you're arresting American citizens on American soil without Mirandizing them, without charging them with a crime, just throwing them in a van and driving them off, I don't care if you work for the government or not, you're kidnapping people. The government currently, under Donald Trump's orders, are kidnapping people. And in many cases, holding them for days without charging them and then just letting them go. And in certain cases, not doing that thing. And it's insane, man. It's absolutely insane. The shit that's been going on in this country this year. I mean, for lots of us, this has been going on a lot longer. But I mean, in the backdrop of a global pandemic, and you've got people armed with semi-automatic weapons marching in protest of not being able to get their hair cut, and nothing's going on with them. The fucking Boogaloo boys out there in force, nothing's going on. But people block the streets to convey some sort of a semblance of inconvenience. Now, how do you think that these people have felt inconvenienced their entire lives when the cops literally stop them for no reason as a part of the, stop and frisk policies? You feel pissed off being that inconvenienced. How do you think that these people feel? On a daily basis. And what's happened? It's being met with violence. I myself have taken part in some of the protests around here. I've given water and stuff like that down in some of the areas where the protests have happened. I myself, without even taking part in a protest at one point, I've been batoned just by walking somewhere by a cop. 3 days ago, there was a section of the street blocked off, and I rolled my window down and politely shouted out, asking, how far down is this street blocked over? I need to get somewhere. And a police officer in the town that I live in pulled his pistol out and said, get fucking moving, and started approaching my vehicle. This happened as I just asked how far down this is going. I did not call names. I did not give the middle finger. I didn't have Fuck the Police by NWA blaring in my car. I asked how far down, and a cop drew his pistol when I asked that question. I'm sorry that me asking how far down a street is blocked off made the cop fear for his life to such a degree that he pulled out and brandished a weapon of death. I'm sorry that he felt so scared. But this is what's going on in this country right now in 2020, man.
It's frustrating.
That is a true story, by the way.
No, I totally believe it. And it's frustrating because, there's a part deep down inside of me that I think kind of was planted when I was growing up that, you want to believe that things are going to be fair and people are going to be treated fairly, and that if somebody treats you unfairly, it's grown into vengeance, it's grown into, well, fucking turn it around on them. But what are you going to turn around on a guy who has a gun in your face? Unless you've got a gun and you're willing to pull it on his face and use it, what are you going to do? And I'm not ready to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the person that does that. And I'm nervous to have a firearm because I feel like I could make some bad decisions with it. And I don't want to even make that an opportunity. I don't want to have that chance to do that, to make a bad decision with it. But it
so
feels...
So you take yourself out of that equation.
It feels like there's so much injustice. And watching superhero cartoons and superhero movies now, and reading comic books and playing video games where you're the hero, there's that part of me that wants to go out there and be the hero, but that's just not how the world works. And I feel that going out there and doing that, especially being the first one to do it, you're just undermining what everyone else is doing peacefully. You're giving
Right.
a reason for forces to escalate. Okay,
Yeah.
so somebody brought a gun and shot at a cop. Okay, well, now we're going to bring in tanks. What the fuck are you going to do now? You know, you just delegitimized peaceful protests. And I worry that I would have that capability or that mean streak, that vengeance, that want to be the hero in me. And it just wouldn't, it doesn't work that way. And so I have to stay on the sidelines, have to curb my anger. I have to realize that the best thing I can do is support from afar rather than undermine. Try to do as much research and learn as much about it as I can, but not get in the front lines because I just can't mentally be there and be the kind of person that they need, which is that peaceful protest. You're going to take a beating. You're going to get handcuffed. You're going to get, a bag overhead.
Gassed.
You're going to get kidnapped.
You're going to be flashbanged.
Yeah.
You could get kidnapped. And this is what's happening. This is literally what's happening. And the protesters, speaking as somebody that's been on the ground, you can listen to whatever you want in the mainstream media. Okay? I would really recommend you start investing yourself more in independent media. Start following people on Twitter that are actually on the grounds recording and photographing what is actually happening inside the protests, on the outsides of the protests, from the sidelines, being directly inside. And you'll see that some of these fires, a large amount, frankly, of these fires that the protesters are setting. Adrian, have you ever touched a smoke grenade?
No.
They're very hot, and they remain extremely hot for hours. The cops are not paying attention as to where these things are being discharged. Some of these canisters, I don't know, might fall down next to, let's say, a McDonald's bag and ignite it, or, God forbid, fall into a garbage can and set a garbage can on fire. If you really think that these fires, that these broken windows are just coming from protesters that are angry, that are whipping water bottles at people, you are not paying attention. Rubber bullets are to be fired at the ground to ricochet up at people. They're being shot at people at point blank range.
Yeah.
Where do you think that ricochets go? Do you think that they go exactly where they're intended? Because these cops are not trained on how to properly discharge their own weapons. They're breaking store windows. They're breaking business windows. They're breaking residential windows. Do you really think that the majority of this violence and destruction is at the hands of the protesters? Some, sure, obviously. I'm not saying that it's all one side and it's not all the other. But there is culpability for this destruction a lot more than even is being insinuated by some on the hands of the cops.
You really can't. I feel, and it's sad to be at a point where it's easy and it's clear to see, like, you can't trust Fox News, MSNBC, like the major sources of news. They're going to show you what they want you to see so that you try to feel what they want you to feel. And you really have to go beyond it, unfortunately. You have to do the work. You have to do the digging to find the real news because our news is not news anymore. It's all partisan bullshit. I mean,
and it's all opinion pieces.
Yeah, something that should be the least partisan of all in a pandemic is hydroxychloroquine effective or not? One side says yes, one side says no. One side quotes a study, another side quotes another study, and it's no longer about will this save lives? Is this a safe treatment that could potentially save lives?
Absolutely. It's all about being right.
Yeah, it's about being right and pointing the finger at somebody.
Precisely. I actually got into a debate today because somebody that I've known for a very long time, a good portion of my life, most of my life, frankly, posted this giant conspiracy thing that involved Pizzagate, and Tom Hanks is now a Greek citizen, and Jimmy Fallon is taking a break, and Rosie O'Donnell, I think, or Ellen DeGeneres is about to be canceled, and doctors are being silenced about hydroxychloroquine. but it's about the children. And I wrote back because I knew what the last one was referencing. You know, it's all about the lizard people. God damn it, wake up, sheeple. You know, just making a satirical comment like, what are you saying here? And I got attacked by people. Oh, well, you don't think that child trafficking and human trafficking is real? What does that have to do with the doctor that came out earlier this week and said that women are getting ovarian cancer because they fuck demons and witches in their dreams? By the way, in July of 2020, the Tea Party and the president endorsed a doctor that said that women are getting ovarian cancer because they're fucking demons and witches in their dreams. That happened. That's a news that happened here. So here's more news. Let's do a news here. That isn't a thing. News over. And we got into a long debate where they're trying to tell me that, oh, she saved 350 plus lives by, treating with hydroxychloroquine. She said that it was a cure. It's not a cure. A treatment is not a cure. A cure is you give it to someone and they are cured. Using it to treat someone is different. And the jury's still out worldwide, not just nationally. France just banned the usage of it. And then somebody comes at me trying to say, I find it really disgusting that you're trying to dictate what people do with their own bodies. First off, motherfucker, I don't care what the fuck you put in your body. I don't care if you live, die, or grow mushrooms in your crack. I just don't give a fuck. But also, I went on your profile and started to read your pro-life bullshit. So if you're trying to say that it's insidious for me to say what to do with your body as far as medicine, you really don't have a leg to stand on when you're telling women what to do with their bodies.
No. You're allowed to put whatever in it that you want or don't want. You don't put it in it, but you're not allowed to take anything out. That's the problem.
Oh,
that's
see,
where
that
the
was
line
actually
is.
my mistake. So where does it come with the masks? Because, my body, my choice. It's my body, my choice to wear a mask. I don't care if I could infect you or get infected or take it home to grandma or, possibly infect you and you take it home to your grandma and or children. I don't have to wear a mask if I don't want to.
What I don't
But
understand is the whole
no
argument on
abortions
that.
for anyone.
The whole argument on the mask thing, I don't understand. Like, let's break it down. Let's say it either works or it doesn't work. And let's say we're not sure either way. If it does work and everyone wears them, we save lives.
Yes.
Less people get infected. Hospitals don't get overrun with people. It's easier to treat people, blah, 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 whatever. And let's say that it doesn't work and everybody wears them. There's no change. It doesn't hurt anyone. No one's going to die from wearing a mask, right? But on the flip side, let's say it does work, but nobody wears them or half the people don't wear them. Then we're basically actively killing people. So it's like, So if you're wrong about, let's say, I think everyone should wear a mask and you're wrong about it, it doesn't really hurt anyone. It costs like $5 or less for a mask. It's a little uncomfortable.
You can make your own at home.
I mean, the cost benefit or whatever, like it really doesn't cost a lot to do it, and it could have a huge, massive, positive impact. And if you're wrong, you lose $5 a person, maybe. But on the flip side, let's say you don't believe them, and it does work. You're basically saying like, well, I'm not going to wear it because I don't like it. But if I'm wrong, lots of people could die. And it's just like to actively take that stance. I don't understand it. I'm not sure, like, what's the other thing that's like the only arguments I ever see is like, I don't feel like wearing it, or I don't like it, or it's a hoax, or whatever. It's like, okay, but if you're wrong, there's a lot of people that could die. So what's the main, like, why is it so abhorrent to you to wear a mask?
Oh, because it's all about the government. It's the nasty government being run by the left. That's what it is, Adrian Steve. It's the nasty government, and it's all a conspiracy.
But a conspiracy for what?
But no, you're missing the point, Adrian Steve. It's the conspiracy, man. It's perpetrated by the left. The stupid, evil left. They're the ones with the pizza restaurants and the Tom Hanks being Greek. It's the left, man. It's the conspiracy.
I mean, I just don't get it, because I feel like the mask debate and the hydroxychloroquine are the exact same, but the left and the right are on opposite sides of it. And it's kind of like, okay, hydroxychloroquine and zinc and whatever, like, it's cheap, it might be effective, and it could save a bunch of lives if it is. But if it doesn't, okay, you're out $20.
But there's also
$15.
studies that are showing that it actually causes death in a lot of people as well, like worsens symptoms and or gives new symptoms and or just flat out kills people. So,
I mean, we don't need to sit on
this.
this.
The jury is still out.
We don't need to sit on this, but I mean, from what I've been hearing about it, and again, I'm not trying to say Trump's right or left is right, whatever, but it could potentially work, and it seems like a lot of the studies that are coming out against it are potentially really, really flawed. They're potentially really, really flawed.
Some of them, yes. Just like some of them saying that it is a miracle drug, the sample sizes are way too low to tell.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my point, though. We don't know. If hydroxychloroquine is a good thing, then awesome. Seriously, awesome. If it is not, then it's not.
But we just can't even get on the same page about anything. It's everything's been left versus right. Or really, honestly, I don't even want to call it left versus right, because it's right versus slightly more right, it feels like. Like, I thought the true left on a political spectrum, not the U.S. political spectrum, but the true left on just a general political, has no place in the U.S. There's nowhere for it to go. But let's not do, I don't want to do fucking political podcast. That'll just fucking blow my goddamn brains out. Things are bad enough. Let's talk about something better. Let's escape.
So the reason that I let us keep going on this is we've got a movie that we're going to talk about today that I got to see in theaters that Adrian has not had a chance to see.
Iron Fist 3.
Oh, God, I wish. God damn it. Motherfucker, I wish. I'm talking about the Joker, man. That is the whole reason that I brought us down this rabbit hole, to get us both riled up, to look at the fact that we're living in the worst possible, the darkest timeline. Because I want to talk to you, Adrian, about the Joker. Now, I've been on record on this show for saying I don't want a Joker movie. I have no desire to see it. I have no interest in it. It does not have a place, in my opinion, in film. The Joker does not exist without Batman. The Joker is a force of nature. It does nothing but neuter down and kind of ruin the mystique and the concept of the Joker to have him have a standalone movie.
Was that before you saw it or after you saw it? Just for reference.
That was before I even so much as saw the trailer.
Okay. Because I felt very similarly. I was like, what's the point of a Joker movie without Batman? And we're getting another new Joker after the old bad new Joker with fucking a grill and tattoos. And I was like,
God.
Who wants this movie? Who needs this movie? Why are they making this movie? Fuck you for making this movie. was kind of my stance as it was coming out.
And then I watched it. And then you brought up to me just a couple of weeks ago, I'm thinking about watching this maybe, and I told you need to watch it.
Well, it was more than I was thinking about watching it. It was like I knew I was going to watch it at some point, especially after hearing that it was much better than I imagined that it was ever going to be, and apparently it was winning some awards as well, which is kind of unheard of for any kind of a superhero or comic book movie, honestly. So I knew I was going to watch it, and I knew I was interested in it. It was just kind of getting into that right mindset and that right mood.
And I even tried to warn you, there is no right mindset. You just have to do this. You just need to sit back and let it happen to you. But you can be too depressed for the movie. Well, what did you think? Seeing as though I'm usually the voice of positivity when it comes to the pop culture here, which is another reason I went off on my particular brand of, ranting earlier, I want you to bring us there, man. What did you think of the Joker?
I felt like I was absolutely wrong about it, having judged it before seeing a trailer or even seeing the movie.
Hmm.
I mean, I know where I was coming from back then, and it all still
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But after seeing it, I was like, I was blown away. I was really, really surprised. I thought they did an incredible job with it. Um, the progression, like, I remember thinking in the first 30 or 40 minutes, it's like, wow, this movie is really unsettling. Like the way they lined up their shots and the way that, the I think it's Joaquin Phoenix, so the way he was like
Yep.
kind of
Joaquin
hunched
Phoenix.
over, and just a lot of these little things that they did. I was just like, this movie's really, really unsettling. Just really, there's something wrong, and the further it goes, the more it kind of evens out. And I think it was kind of a way for the filmmaker to kind of depict the primary character being on his meds versus being off his meds. And as it gets closer, it gets towards the end, as he's leaving his medication, he's turning into the person that he's destined to become.
Yep.
He's seeing the world more clearly, at least to his mind. And so these shots, they're not as awkward. They're not these weird framing, and there's not offsetting like strange just objects and characters. And so I just remember thinking like the first 30 or 40 minutes is like, this is interesting. I kind of like where they're going with it. It has my attention, and it's like, this is
Hmm.
just incredibly well done, unnerving cinema.
The veneer falls off. The
Hmm.
rose-colored glasses come off as you see. And this to me, especially now, which is again, there's a reason. There's a reason that I started the show out the way I did. Do you feel like this movie was about a descent into madness or an awakening to the way the world really is? Like waking up to the fact that this world is a dark place with brutal people and and this is how he becomes, this is how he adapts, he becomes this as a product of the world, or do you see this as a descent into madness? Because after rewatching this film, I would say that both interpretations, I feel both interpretations do hold water.
I was gonna say both, and I don't even think it's as much a descent into madness as it is a descent into the chaos that is already there. I feel like, and I almost feel like that's what the kind of times we're living in right
You know,
now.
that's fair.
It's chaos.
Precisely.
Everything feels like
Precisely.
it's fucking chaos, and there's only so much you can do to ignore it. There's only
Yes.
so many meds you can take to
Yes.
ignore it, and
Yes.
even as this movie was showing with this character, it's like it doesn't change the facts that it's there. You just get to not think about it. You just get to feel like you're kind of above it or a part of it or outside of it. It's
Hmm.
still there, but it somehow doesn't quite reach you and touch you. But
Yep.
as you look around a little bit more, as you start thinking about things a lot more, as you recognize the injustices and the unfairness and the lack of assistance for those who need it, and it just kind of morphs into this. And it sounds kind of crazy to put it this way, because I'm not advocating for this, but it almost feels like a revolutionary movie for this chaotic and eventually evil character, honestly. I mean,
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. As I mean, just to bring the real world parallel, cycling this all back one more time, we're in the backdrop of a global pandemic with police brutality on the rise. An unhinged man driving the White House right now. People are debating the validity of a fucking drug. People are debating the validity of wearing masks, which, best case scenario, could save your life. Worst case scenario, are a little bit annoying. You've got this going on in the real world. And then you see this movie where all of this shit is happening in his life. And then all of a sudden, something happens to you. You, right now, listening to the show, something happens to you. Maybe you took part in a protest and got batoned by a cop, or got a flashbang to the leg, or got pepper sprayed while you were just driving by. The cop broke out your window and pepper sprayed, which I witnessed happen. Now your rose colored glasses are off. Now there's no way you can't go home again. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. Now the veneer is off. And the way this movie was shot, it starts out, like you said, one way. A happy go lucky guy. He loves his mama, he has this relationship with this girl. And then as the movie progresses, you can even see the color scheme slightly change. It starts to become darker as, again, to pose the question, does he wake up or does he descend? And it doesn't, like, you even brought it around to that. It doesn't have to be a clear-cut answer. He can wake up as he's descending or vice versa. It's no clear-cut answer, but the parallels at this moment are staggering. And in these times, true evil can arise, true brutality can arise. And as we saw alluded to at the end, just by name dropping, the potential of a true hero can arise. Because keep in mind, this is the Joker, so obviously there's going to be some sort of commentary of a Batman or a Bruce Wayne or something like that in the film itself. But to me personally, that's actually the only spot where the film fell short.
Really?
Was trying to, yeah.
I
that,
actually
to me,
liked
that
it.
was the only spot where where the film fell short, is trying to hamper in the fact that, oh, remember, this is still a Batman movie. I felt like it was more impactful if this stood alone.
I didn't love the scene with him.
Okay, hold on just a second. At this point, we're going to start diving into this film with the nitty-gritty. We're not going to go long on this film, okay? Because we recommend you all watch it.
Absolutely.
But we are going to start going into spoilers here. Just a couple of scenes just to really emphasize what it is we're talking about and why now more than any other time since this film has come out, this is an important movie to watch right now. Go ahead.
I think the one scene for me that I felt was a little maybe heavy-handed or not particularly super necessary was when he runs into young Bruce at the gate to Wayne Manor. I felt like that was a little shoehorned in there. I felt like that didn't need to be there. But I'm assuming from what you said earlier that you're talking about the end.
I was talking about the end. More than anything, I was referring to that scene that you were talking about. But yeah, at the end where he looks at him, at Bruce, and he just starts laughing. And what was it? The cop asks him, what's so funny? You wouldn't get it. It almost seems like prophetic. Like he sees this boy and he's like, that's going to be my arch nemesis. You wouldn't get this joke.
I'm not sure I remember that part. I remember him being in lockup afterwards, but I don't remember anything with Bruce. Was he like on a TV or a newspaper article or something? Like, what was that?
No,
reference?
He was on the streets. He was standing in Crime Alley.
I thought that was when he was pulled out of the car.
Yeah, that was Bruce Wayne standing in Crime Alley right after his parents were gunned down.
I thought they were in two separate parts of the city.
Nope.
Because
they were right there.
Because the Joker himself didn't gun them down.
That only happened in a couple of bits of lore, man. Or we were talking Dark Souls before the show. My head is red around lore. That's only happened in a couple versions of the story, including the version with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, the Tim Burton film. Yeah, that is when that happened. Yeah, it's happened in a couple comic book variations, but that's not necessarily the way it went down every single time.
Which is fine, but I did really like, sorry to cut you off, but I was like,
sure.
I did really like the idea that Joker could be indirectly created by the Wayne family and Thomas Wayne and all this other stuff that's going on. And
yes,
then
I like that as well.
Indirectly creating the Joker indirectly creates Batman. I love that.
That is a very cool concept.
I really love that because usually they're direct conflicts and one of them causes the other. Like the Joker kills before he's the Joker, he kills Bruce's parents, or Bruce dumps the gangster into the vat of acid or whatever, and he turns into the Joker. There's like a direct correlation. It's like one of them creates the other, or they create each other. But the indirect creation, I felt, was actually even more powerful. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do. It's like a bad person creates another bad person, creates another bad person. And honestly, like, I love Batman, but he's probably... you could go on record.
He's a bit of a sociopath.
He's a bad person. He beats the shit out of the mentally ill, right? And he takes the law into his own hands. Now, you could argue whether that needs to be done or not in Gotham City, in the state that it's in. I mean, I love Batman, but is he a great person? Probably not. I mean, he's got a ton of money. Why isn't he helping people with it? More than dressing up like a bat and punching angry people or criminals.
That is something that you can point to. Absolutely. And by the way, just to throw this in, because I'm sorry to be so heavy-handed, but I'm really trying to drive the parallels in this piece of art as well as what's going on outside right now, because I think that it's very important to look at art as a reflection of what's going on and see the possibilities of what could happen and what could not happen. Batman is a vigilante. The original label for police officers in the United States of America was designated vigilantes. All I'm saying is maybe we need some masks and a couple of capes out here in the streets, homies. That's all I'm saying, okay? Batman didn't need to fly. I'm gonna just leave it there.
See, the thing that's kind of crazy that I keep thinking about is, like, if things were to escalate where we're at right now, this has nothing to do with the movie, but if things were to escalate right now, the only chance that I could think that a citizen, quote unquote, army would have against our armed forces would be going back to revolutionary times. Fucking
You're talking guerrilla.
hit and run.
Yep.
Run and gun.
You're talking guerrilla.
Yeah, and it's the only way you could do it. But is that a war that we really want to fight? Is that a war we really want to wage on our own soil against our own people? And the sad thing is, it seems like there's a lot of people that do want that.
That's the whole concept of the Boogaloo Boys.
Yeah.
The mostly right-wing street gang, you know, the Boogaloos. The Boogaloos.
Like
that
Balky
is a
from Perfect Strangers. Balky. You know Balky.
You gotta know Balky. You know, the Boogaloos. That is a rabbit hole for another film, for another time, talking about another, what would ultimately become another United States Civil War. That is another topic for another day. Right now, I'm trying to talk about the boiling point and the darkness and the mentality that we're in and that this film revels in such a way. The reason that I bring up the Caped Crusaders and the possibility in real life is because that is ultimately what, like you said, what happens here. Dominoes of apathy and brutality start to fall, and one creates another, which creates another, which creates another. And on one hand, you have the creation of the Dark Knight, and on the other hand, you have the creation of the Dark Knight. Because this was one concept that I loved with Christopher Nolan's film, is the Dark Knight could reference Batman or Joker when you look at the ideology. That was something very clever that I liked. And watching Joker now, it's just, I feel for the guy.
I mean, the
And
crazy
I
thing.
get where he's coming from, and I get where the creation of an agent of chaos to try to create a better world could come from with this type of person.
The crazy thing about it is how scarily relevant it is. Like
Yes,
this film came out right around the same time. Like, it's eerie.
Yeah, it is. It's very eerie. As this film was in theaters, we're learning more and more that the pandemic technically began months before we even knew what coronavirus / COVID-19 even was. Keep in mind, we discovered COVID-19 in 2019, hence the name. Does not mean the 19th strain, Kellyanne Conway. COVID-19 refers to the year 2019. I'm almost convinced that everybody in my household has had COVID-19 starting in September of last year. I'm almost positive we all suffered from it. Do you remember back in December how I got really sick? So sick, in fact, that I broke my ribs from coughing?
I don't remember that.
That happened to me.
But you know
that
what?
happened.
I can't remember shit from like 2 weeks ago. Like the
Fair
lockdown,
enough, bro.
everything, like a month feels like 6. It's insanity.
I hear you, man. I do. But this movie came out in the fall of last year against a backdrop that we didn't even know was brewing. And then as it rises in popularity, the dominoes for the world that we're currently living in right now start to fall. And I understand the frustration that people are feeling on social media and on the news, in the bars, out in the streets. I understand the frustration because no matter what you want, no matter how badly you want it, the world is now irreparably changed. We're never going to go back to the way it was. There are certain genies that cannot be put back in the bottle. And that is exactly what Joker tries to teach us. That is exactly the message of this film. Once certain things start to happen, once certain avenues are taken, you cannot go home again. Things are now going to be different forever, and the world is changed. So, yeah, this movie is scary relevant right now. It's freakishly relevant. And it's a movie that I think that everybody really should take the time to watch. Although bleak, this movie is very bleak. I mean, I swear to God, this is the Taxi Driver of superhero movies.
The thing I think was really impressive about it was making me feel empathetic and sympathetic for the Joker, or the man who becomes the Joker. I never saw anyone really actively try to do that. I'm not saying it's never been done, but I just never got a chance to see it. You know, we saw Jack Nicholson playing kind of a very kind of cheesy version of the character. You don't really, he just,
And before that, he was a wise guy.
yeah,
You know?
and you see Heath Ledger's kind of more unhinged, kind of a little bit more insane take on him. We don't talk about Jared Leto because there was no take there.
Nope.
But
Nope.
I definitely didn't empathize with any of them. But you see this guy that's just, he's betrayed at every turn. He's betrayed by his family, by his coworkers. He's betrayed by his own mind. He's betrayed by, a father figure, potential father figure. Everywhere he goes, he's betrayed, and he takes a beating for it that he doesn't deserve most of the time.
Yep.
Honestly.
And then finally at the end, gets to live out his dream, something that he fantasizes about earlier in the film. Gets to live out his dream by coming on that show, hosted by Robert De Niro.
Yep. And the dream is very different.
Yes. Yeah. In the dream, he goes out and he's happy and he's made it. He's successful and people see him and they give a shit. It's not even that, men want to be him, women want to be with him, but people give a shit.
Yeah.
But in reality, he's brought on the show to be mocked.
Yeah.
He's brought on the show to be made fun of, to be used, to be a tool. He's a punchline. He's a living punchline. It's just more of his life. So in that last moment, his last dream is taken from him and perverted.
It is, but I think by that time he has a new dream, and that dream is stand up to a betrayal, and he does.
I think at that moment, what I truly believe is he didn't know what he was going to do when he went out on that stage, but he was ready for any possibility. The way I watched the movie is when what happened. When he started to get mocked, when Robert De Niro started to make fun of him, that is when the new dream took hold. When his last dream, the last thing he was holding on to, dies in real time, and we're watching this man live that in real time, that is when the new dream arises. That is when all facades of goodness die.
I guess I could see that. I mean,
Do you see my argument for that?
He was practicing. He was doing a setup for it for his actions on that show. But I think it was solidified that was the only option through the conversation that he was having, through the reactions of the people that were there, and just saying like, look, you people don't know what's going on out there. You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about these people that you're crying over. The three men in the subway. Like, you don't know anything about them. You don't know what happened, and you don't care because we've already decided. Oh, well, they must have been. They were these great people. Were they? Were they? They weren't to him.
Precisely. One person's savior is another person's devil. And it was in the way I read it, and the reason that I say that is Joaquin Phoenix does something very interesting when you look at his eyes. You can almost see his eyes widen and go narrow again, then widen, then go narrow, almost as if he's trying to hold on before he just goes and becomes the Joker, like the Joker.
Yeah.
That's why I use the statement, you're seeing the dream die in real time. I don't believe that he went on that stage with the intent to shoot him dead on live television. I don't believe that. I believe that he was prepared for it.
Honestly,
I believe that he thought that that was a possibility, but I think that I truly believe that he held out hope until the hope died.
I honestly, the more I think about it, because I watched it a little bit more recently, unless you've tuned in like within the past week or so.
Not in the past
I
week,
think
no.
his initial plan, now that I think about it, he was aiming the gun at himself. I think he was going to kill himself on live TV, but then
That's what I thought.
he gets into that conversation with Robert De Niro's character and
Yep.
the audience and all of that, and he's like, you know what? Why am I going to take the bullet for this? Why am
Yep.
I going to take the bullet for all this shit that other people have done?
Yep.
And that's when he makes his decision. And, you know, he lights the powder keg that had been set up by everybody else. It was already there. He just lit it.
That was the final thing. That was the final thing. And yeah, I initially thought that he was going to kill himself as well. My theory on that was that he wanted to live out his dream.
Yeah.
He wanted to go there, and then knowing the world that is outside there, he wanted to die with one moment of goodness.
Yeah.
Like, my dream came true. No one will take anything else from me. I'm gone now.
Yeah.
Like, it won't get better than this. Everything else is already taken from me. I'm checking out
Yeah.
in front of everybody.
And if we're keeping
That is
track, I was going to say, if we're keeping track, that was the second betrayal of a potential father figure.
Yep, precisely. So that is the way I interpreted it. And then you see in real time that dream die, and that's when I think the plan changed. Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
To give you the satisfaction? No.
Right.
No.
To shock a few people.
You
and
owe
then,
me the satisfaction at this point.
Yeah, he's going to shock a few people and then fade away. It'll be a trivia question on Jeopardy or something.
Precisely. And you know what? If he had, if things had gone well on that show, and if he had had one moment of tenderness, one moment of being seen and being appreciated, not even loved, but appreciated, noticed,
Yeah.
I think he actually wouldn't have even cared. Like you just said, you know, being a trivia question in a few years. I don't think he would have given a shit because he would have had that last thing and then he would have been gone. But he couldn't even have that.
Well, it's funny because either way, I think he was ready to be gone, whether it was him taking himself out or taking out the host. But symbolically, you know, after the car gets rammed and he's pulled out to rejoin the world. He's appreciated
Reborn.
finally
Reborn.
by the people in the streets.
Precisely. But as something different.
Yes.
Because the man he was is gone. And now he has become someone new. So when he's pulled from the car like that, to me that symbolized a moment of rebirth. And I don't think that is any sort of like hot take. I'm pretty sure that most people that watch film and analyze film see it in that way.
Yeah.
You know, being ripped from a canal. You know. So, in that particular moment, the anti-Batman, his arch enemy, you know, his arch nemesis, the agent of chaos, is born.
Yeah.
At that moment. But in reality, he became that to me on television.
Yeah.
But it became solidified when he was ripped out of the car. You know what I mean? That was the imagery that was to be conveyed, at least from my interpretation.
Yeah.
Heavy movie, especially in this time. You know?
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a pick-me-up, maybe
This
go
ain't
to a
it.
different movie.
Yeah, if you're looking for a pick-me-up, this ain't it. But if you're looking for a film to be honest with you and to make you think, to watch a character study, to see what drives people to do what they do in the most horrific ways. I don't think that you can look in very many better places for new releases. I mean, yeah, maybe some films out there have done it better in the past, but I think that Joker will stand on that list for a very long time as one of the best movies to tackle that type of subject, and frankly, one of the best comic book movies for a long time. You
Yeah,
know, if not of all time, but for a long time.
absolutely.
To me, this was up there with The Dark Knight and with Logan, two other movies that had things to say, and Black Panther as well. Movies that had things to say and didn't shy away from it, that told them in their own way. They had their metaphors, they had their symbolism, and it went out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of popped in my head as we've been talking is specifically about his character is I think it's really incredible that if you analyze the things that he does, you can argue that most, if not all of them, aren't right, but
Yeah,
most, if not all of them, are justified.
yeah,
And so that really puts you in this really difficult, chaotic kind of gray areas. Like, should I be shooting these assholes? Probably not. But I'm fucking justified in doing it. You know,
mm-hmm.
should I be again? We're lots of spoilers here. It's like, should I be suffocating my mom? Probably not. But after the way that she lied about everything, and you know, you could, it's not necessarily her fault, but passing on her mental afflictions to him, like, you could argue it's kind of justified. You know,
From a certain perspective, you could see that
that
argument.
one's a
I may
little
not
harder.
agree with it, but you see
That
how he
one's,
got
yeah,
there.
that one's a little bit harder, but I mean, and then the finale on the talk show is like that's justified. It's justified what he
Yeah.
did in his apartment when the coworkers came by. It's justified, and he's actually got a little chaotic good in him in there. It's like, you know what? You were always nice to me. You can go. You can go.
Yeah.
You're always nice to me, even when
Yeah.
it didn't look like he was going to let him.
Here's my question to you. The final question that I have. Did he kill the girl?
In the apartment down the hall,
Yeah. Do you think he killed the girl?
I don't.
Neither do I.
I don't think he did, and I don't think he would be justified for that. I think that was another startling realization that something that he thought was true wasn't true. And it was unfortunate for her and unfortunate for him that it was just something that was in his mind, whether that was a side effect from the drugs or coming off of the drugs or just an escape for his mind to not feel awful about everything that was awful in his life.
There it is. That's what I took from it. I never thought that it was a hallucination in any sort of medical capacity. I thought that it was a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
I thought that it was a fantasy world that he wanted so badly to be real, that he needed a coping mechanism, things around him. Not only was his life bad, but his life started deteriorating to an even worse spot. Even if your life was good, and then things start deteriorating, and you get berated, and you get betrayed, and then you start getting it from every single direction. You know, your life is in a constant state of turmoil and upheaval, and tragedy is happening to you, and badness and bad feelings are happening to you. Your mind can snap and creates an alternate reality
Yeah.
that sometimes it's easier to live in, because I also don't even think that he lived in that alternate reality the majority of the time. But I think that it was there.
Yeah.
And I think that it was an escape. I think that he lived a dual life. And when reality got too difficult or a tinge of pain came back, he regressed and slipped into this pseudo life, the second life.
Yeah.
You know? And when it finally shattered, when the illusion shattered, and you saw that tragedy for what it was, that none of that was real, the love that he thought that he had in this movie, he never actually even had that. That was all in his mind. And to come to grips with that, something that I actually think that he already knew, but didn't realize that he knew.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
He was
Like,
sitting in there to test it.
in denial.
Because I think he was in that process of waking up. He's like, well, I think he was probably analyzing everything that was going on in his life and seeing,
Yeah.
you know what, this seems too good to be true. Everything else that seemed too good to be true, I've gotten burned on. So I'm going to test it. But I think him being in there and testing it and realizing that it was too good to be true, she hadn't actively done anything to him. And so if he had killed her, which I do not think he did, I don't think that could be justified. So I feel like he is chaotic. He does evil things, but he does them with specific, at least at this point, specific justifications throughout this entire movie. And I don't think...
all points, the Joker is known for his specificity.
Yeah. So I don't think that this instance would fall under that, which is why I don't believe that she was killed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I completely agree. All right, we've spoiled the shit out of this movie, but we have dove deep. Adrian, do you have anything else that you want to touch on about this before we sign off?
No, I mean, rating. I guess you could try to rate it.
Okay, scale of 1 to 10 rubber noses.
So I was going to say, if we were going on a scale of 5.
Okay, 1 to 5 rubber noses.
If we were going to say a scale of 5, I want to give it a 5, but for some reason I'm not sure if I can. But I know that I would not go any lower than 4.5. I was blown away by this movie.
Yep.
And I recommend anyone with even a passing interest in the Joker or mental health or, you know, anything that's even related to the themes in this movie, they should see it.
Yes.
Do not judge it before seeing it or before the trailer even comes out, like I myself did and like Robbie did. But I admit it. I was really, really surprised by it because I had less than zero interest in this movie. And after watching it, I was like, how did I not watch this earlier?
I'm going to give it a 4.5 as well. And I know exactly the reason that I have to take a little bit off. And that is the reason that I can't give it a 5 is the same thing that I praised it for. And it's the bleakness. This is not a movie I can reach for a lot. This is a movie that I have to experience and get prepared for now that I know what's coming. It's the things that I love and respect about the movie are the same reasons that I cannot rewatch it over and over and over. I can't have this movie on loop. It's not like a lot of horror movies or even a lot of other depressing type films. Its greatest strength to me is one of the reasons that I have to take a little bit off, and it's just due to, rewatchability to me, ultimately. Now, that was a long way of saying rewatchability.
Honestly, I would argue that even more of a reason to give it a high rating, that you can't just keep watching it over and over. It's so good at what it does that you can't keep watching it without feeling like everything's falling apart. And that's like the theme of the movie.
It is.
So
it is.
I would argue that if that's the only reason you're removing points, I'm not sure that's a fair reason. In fact, you should probably be increasing points. But that's just me. I gave it a 4.5 as well. And honestly, I think it comes down to a little bit of the Bruce shoehorning. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think there's some things in there that really didn't have to be in there, but they didn't detract enough for me to really kill my enjoyment of it. In fact, I really loved the implications of indirect causality of the Joker and Batman and all that stuff. So
shitty dominoes falling from shitty people to create even more chaos
and even more shitty people.
And even more shitty people. Because ultimately, look at what the creation of Batman's presence in Gotham City ultimately does. You've got in Batman stories, you've got big bads coming from all over the world to Gotham and killing innocent people and causing mayhem just because Batman is in fact there. The League of Assassins, Ra's al Ghul, fucking Condiment King, bitch. These people show up simply because Batman's there. It has nothing to do with Gotham. It has to do with Batman. They want to match wits with the Bat. And in this film, it is indirectly linked to his own father that does that.
Yep. I think, and I've said it like 5 times now, but I really love that indirect fashion because we're so used to
Yep.
the death of Thomas Wayne and his wife being the reason that Batman is created. And in this movie, we see it's the life of Thomas Wayne is the reason that
Yes.
Batman's created.
Yes. Yep. And the life of Thomas Wayne directly led to his own death.
Yep.
And ultimately the death of the innocents and the death of the true life of Bruce Wayne as well.
And
because in many respects, Bruce Wayne died in that alley as well.
Yeah, it becomes like an incredible tragedy. The tragedy of this man's life and then his death. His life creates the tragedy that causes his own death, which creates the tragedy of his son's life, which creates the tragedy of the entire city. Like, it's a really uplifting film, really. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. It's definitely something to watch in the backdrop of everything that's happening here.
I mean, just put it in a Christmas movie, Christmas time, and just really just revel in the joy.
But that's going to take us out of it, guys. I hope that you have maybe learned a little bit of something about maybe current events or this movie. And maybe if you've seen it, you look at it a little bit differently. And if you haven't seen it, maybe we decided to turn you on to this. But regardless, let us know what's going on, okay? You can email us, nerdynomicon@gmail.com. You can get at us, Nerdynomicon, all the way around. You can find me on Twitter at Robbie Watches Stuff. You can find Adrian.
You can't. You could tweet me. I'm not going to find it. I haven't logged in like a year plus, if not 2.
Fair enough.
Send me a fucking carrier pigeon or something that's more likely to get to me.
Send a raven.
Just send it to Robbie. He'll screenshot the good stuff and send it to me and make me feel slightly better that somebody cares.
Oh, you want us to throw a shout out to the ogre?
He didn't even send me any wine. Why would I? Why? Why would I shout him out?
And if you guys really like what we're doing here, and if you are in a financial position to do so, we would really appreciate any sort of help that you could give us in keeping the show going, especially in these dark times. This is for both the podcast and the YouTube channel, patreon.com/nerdynomicon. You get early access to everything that we put out, podcasts and videos, plus some exclusive content, including Brooke doing unboxing videos. That's going to be up there. She's going to be opening up a box of the new Magic the Gathering set and undoubtedly mocking me for my excitement of it. But that content you can only find at patreon.com/nerdynomicon. So with that and the obligatory begging for money, I think it's time to get out of here and back to the chaos that is our lives. So until next episode, man, I've been Robbie.
And I've been Adrian, and I promise you, we're not trying to have a once every quarter release schedule. We're trying to be better. The world just is not cooperating. It really isn't, but I'm pushing Robbie to be around more, and he's pushing me to be around more. So we'll see you in about 3 months, two to 3 months.
And we've got some guests that have been giving me some pushback to come on the show. So we've got some fun people that are going to be showing up.
Like
We're
who?
going international with this.
Like who? I don't even know.
Actually, the next guest, as a matter of fact, probably the next episode, is Francisco Duarte, a good friend of a mutual friend of ours, Jazz. Jazz, Keeper, bunch of the guys from the Keep Studio.
I love how everybody gets nicknames except for us. We have to use our real names. That seems really lame.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm
kind of does.
King Awesome, I suppose, or the one Adrian.
But that was your own self-imposed nickname.
I mean, yeah, it's like what's his face, the football commentator who calls himself Boomer, and so everyone has to call him Boomer now.
Well, fair enough. But yeah, Francisco Duarte is going to be on. We've got we've got some cool guests coming on the show.
Am I invited as well, or is this like your side stuff when I'm not around? Because I know you love having guests on without me, and guests love being on without me. I am absolutely.
And on that note, we're going to get.
I
know you are. No, of course you're invited, man. You're half the Nerdynomicon, bitch. Come on now. But all right, guys. Until that next episode with Francisco Duarte and hopefully Adrian Steve, I have been Robbie.
And I've been Adrian, and if Francisco doesn't come on the next one, our fans would be super pissed. So, like, you really put him in the hot seat now.
I did. Franny, you're showing up here. He's probably over there. Don't call me Franny.
Yeah.
But until then, let's close the book.
The Book of Sadness.